with that being said, Austin, before we play your interview with Matej Pekar, what excites you about this kid? I know last year in development camp, he was really getting under Casey Middlestad's skin. I believe him and Rasmus Dahlin got into it. I believe Dahlin hit him with a pretty good check during development camp. But before you interviewed him, what have you liked from a distance from Pekar's game? Not just with the Sabres development camp, but here with Sudbury, and even before that with Barrie before he was traded over to Sudbury.
Yeah, so I mean, it's he kind of brings a bunch of elements to the Sabres that, not that they're lacking, but that they just don't really have from some of their forwards. I mean, he's like you said, he kind of endeared himself to Sabres fans in his first development camp. So in 2018, when he was able to get under Casey Middlestad's skin, he was able to, show off his offensive talent. Everyone kind of knew who he was because Matt Bove from Channel 7 in Buffalo interviewed him, and Pekar kind of said, he likes Brad Marchand. He likes to be the rat. He likes to annoy his opponents and get under their skin. So that kind of put them all on notice. And then we saw him for limited action for Barrie last year. I don't think people realize that not saying that he's a top-notch offensive-minded prospect, but people probably didn't realize that he's a little bit more offensively gifted than people thought. So he's I view him as a middle six, but more likely a third line forward in the NHL if he does get there, and that's because of his ability he can produce offense when needed. Like, he's playing with Quinton Byfield when Byfield has been healthy. He's been playing with Byfield in Sudbury for a bit. He plays with good forwards like David Levin. So he's capable of playing with talent. He's not going to drive a line, but he's a really good complementary piece. But it's his ability to be physical and annoy the other teammates that I think is what Sabres fans are going to really love about him. That's because we're kind of missing that from our bottom six. Like, we do have Lazar doing that now. As good as Larson and Girgensons are, they're not really that rat-like player that will be able to knock superstar players off their game. I think Pekar does have those type of elements to his game, and that's what kind of excites me. He was a fourth-round pick, so you're not going to expect him to come in and be a top-six forward and score a bunch of points, but he's a fourth-round pick, so you would like to see him make an impact in any aspect at the NHL level.
It seems like as a fourth-round pick, he seems like a pretty good value pick at that point. I mean, what he's doing with Sudbury, like you said, the intangibles that he brings to the game, on the I guess agitator side and getting under opponent's skin. I know we all, especially in Saberland, we hate Brad Marchand, but we'd love to have a guy like that on our team. Just a guy that he puts up a lot of points, but he also is able to get under the skin of the opponent and kind of rattle their cage a little bit, get them off their game. And I think, like you said, that's something that's been missing from the Sabres lineup, I think, since probably, the Patrick Coletta or Steve Ott days, and I don't think those guys really had much upside offensively like a Brad Marchand does. So I think if Pekar can kind of settle into that, 40 or 50 point range and be that type of player, I think he can be a valuable asset for the Sabres and something that they haven't had in a long time.
Yeah, and like, being a fourth-round pick, like, even if he somehow got to the 40 to 50 point range, that'd be a steal and a half. You could look at him and say, okay, get me, if you can even get me 30 points, that'd be real good. If you can contribute at 5-on-5 and maybe bring some special teams value, like on the penalty kill. And if he can be that, it's kind of hard to compare him to it because Dubinsky's a really good player, but we saw what a player like Brandon Dubinsky was able to do in the playoffs against a guy like Sidney Crosby. So if you can kind of get anywhere near that type of role from Pekar as a fourth-round pick, and he can take star players off their game, that'd be huge value for the Sabres going forward.
And considering where the Sabres have lacked in developing their prospects and draft picks into NHL players over the last little bit, I think obviously the Victor Olofsson is a 7th-round pick is the outlier there. But realistically, outside of that, the Sabres have had a really, really tough time in getting their prospects to a level where they become NHL players. We're not sitting here like the Nashville Predators, shout-outs to my buddies Trey and Ty, who seem to develop these late-round picks that end up becoming pretty good NHL players. But I think the Sabres might have found a gem here in the 4th round with Pekar, and this is a stepping stone for them into trying to develop these guys into NHL players. And outside of the first-round picks, the Sabres really haven't had much to show for their draft picks, probably, I'd say, in the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, and over the recent years, aside from, 3 with Dahlin, Eichel, and Reinhart, they've had a little bit of trouble with their first-round picks, too. Like, we all know Alex Nylander was shipped out for Jokiharju He's got 10 goals with Chicago this year, but he's struggling a little bit. Middle stat was obviously rushed a little bit, but you've also seen him kind of not fall off a cliff, but almost fall off a cliff development wise. So yeah, Buffalo has really struggled with development, and it's nice to see a player like Pekar, like he's in his draft plus 2 years, so he's been drafted 2 years ago, and he's over a point per game, which is really good. If he wasn't over a point per game, that would be kind of a really big red flag. He's playing with good players, so maybe that'll boost his production a little bit, but it's good to see him producing at that level, playing with a high motor, and it's not always easy to play with superstar players, so it's good to see him when he does get a chance to play with Byfield. He's had success, so I think he's on the right path to at least carve out a role at some point in the future with the Sabres in that bottom six range. So this could be a little diamond in the rough for Botterill.
Mm-hmm. And with that being said, guys, let's actually get you to the interview that Austin did with Matej Pekar. So here it is from yesterday's pregame scrum, Austin, with Matej Pekar, prospect of the Buffalo Sabres. Enjoy.
So we'll start off easy. You've had a couple weeks now since the trade. How's the transition period going? Do you feel like you've settled in, or?
Yeah, I think I've settled completely. Obviously, beginning I get to used to a little bit of new system, playing a little bit like new playing style, but everything good. I think I'm fully settled, and I'm happy here.
So it's your second year in the OHL. Last year was really good. I know it was shortened by an injury, but your production was well. Your play was really well. So how do you feel like you've grown since last year, and how has maybe the injury kind of helped you recover and take care of yourself off the ice?
Well, I think I personally grew with. I'm a little bit more poised to the puck with the puck, and I think my puck management is a little better than last year. I'm not trying to change much, just trying to still play the same style of game, but just improving the little details. And with the injury, obviously it sucked last year. We didn't make the playoffs, but it allowed me to get kind of better off the ice, more time in the gym. So there's pluses and minuses in both ways, I'd say.
Absolutely. So I was at your first development camp with the Sabres. You kind of became a fan favorite with your play on and off the ice and your personality off the ice. So just briefly talk about your experience with Buffalo and the fan base there, and anything that you can touch on there.
It's great there. I love it. It's unbelievable there. Like so many people care about hockey. The fan base, it's huge. I don't honestly have not much to say except I love it. Like it's the support is unbelievable, and it'd be great to be there one day.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, this year's been going really good for Sudbury. You're not clinching the playoffs yet, but you're in the playoff chase. I don't want to get too far ahead, obviously, because you want to focus on the now. But what long-term goals do you have for yourself and for the team, both this year and beyond?
Well, we have to keep the second place. I think that's the first very important step of our season, and because that would give us a huge advantage in the playoffs, and that's like the main goal for us right now, and for me, just trying to play my game, help the team to get that goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And you play for Sudbury, you play with Quinton Byfield, so I kind of got to get one in there. Okay, he's got a lot of hype going into the draft this year. What's it like not only being on a team with a player like him, but getting to play on the same line with him at times?
It's great. That guy he's an exceptional player. I see him playing in the NHL next year with no problem. So it makes it so much easier to play with him. He can do everything. He plays hard in all three zones. He sees the ice, shoots the puck, super strong in the corners. It's a really good play with him.
When you're out there with him, do you feel like you have to adjust your game at all, or is it kind of just go out there, play your game, and know that he's going to find you?
I'm just trying to play the same way. It doesn't matter who I play with. Obviously, sometimes you have to all adjust depending on who you're playing with. But it's not a single issue playing with him. I think we complement each other well in past couple of the games, and I don't think there's any big adjustments or anything. Just play my game and help each other out.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Good luck there today. I'll see you in Buffalo in the future, buddy.
So there's the interview with Matej Pekar. Austin, after talking with him, what did you like, and just kind of what feeling did you get from him after that interview about what he's thinking about Buffalo, and just his general thoughts on on how the season's going for him.
Yeah, so the few things that I really liked were I liked how he talked about the 2 seed being really important to him and his team. Obviously, the way the OHL playoffs work is the 2 division winners get the 1st and 2nd seed. So with Sudbury leading the Central Division, he understands how important it is to lock up that 2nd seed to help get a little bit of a better playoff matchup. So I like that. I like that he has goals in mind for his season this year. I also really like that he said no matter who he's playing with, he doesn't try to change his game. It's really good. Sometimes you can see young players, especially in the OHL, when they're playing with elite talents like a Byfield, they might try to deviate from their game and maybe pad their stats a little bit by, either forcing a pass or, leaving the zone early to try and get a scoring chance or something like that. So I liked that aspect from him. And then obviously, not that he likes talking about Buffalo, but it's kind of tough, when you're in the OHL and you're in the middle of a playoff race and you're a draft prospect, you like to think about the future, but he wanted to focus more on, his season now, which is totally fair, and I love that about him. But I love that he understands just how supportive and how important the Sabres are to the Buffalo community. He's only been, to 2 development camps, and he played in the Prospects Challenge, so he's kind of been in that atmosphere a little bit, and I really like that he had some nice things to say about the Sabres organization and the fan base there. So those were really good.
Yeah, I think it was a good interview for the amount of time that you were given. Hopefully we get to do more with him in the future and more Sabres prospects. Definitely looking to branch out and get more interviews because that's always good information to bring to you fans out there and listeners of how the Sabres prospects are doing, and we always love to see them developing and how long they're going to be before they possibly become Sabres or Rochester Americans. So to help our organization here. So I think it was a great interview. And Austin, do you want to quickly plug your article as well?
Yeah. So. Obviously, I did the interview for our podcast and also to help with an article that I wrote for the Charging Buffalo. So that article is live now. It's on thechargingbuffalo.net. It'll be the first article there, or you can go to my Twitter, and it is in the pinned tweet. It's a pretty good article. I talk a little bit about, what we touched on in the interview, but I also talk a little bit more about some other stuff. Like there's more stats and information in there about Pekar and his junior career, and some highlights and some videos that if you haven't seen yet, they're all in that article as well.
Perfect. So make sure you go check that out. I had a quick glance at it earlier, but it looked like a good read. So, and you got some good, nice videos and clips in there as well. So Austin does a really good job with his writing stuff for ChargingBuffalo.net. So definitely go check that out. And lastly, I'm just going to say about Pekar is that I'm looking at his stats right now, and like you said, he's not known as the most offensive player, but he is over a point a game right now. For Barrie, he was at 29 in 26 games, and then for Sudbury right now, he's got 24 and 16. So he is chipping in offensively. And if we look at the game yesterday that he played against Niagara, Austin, quickly touch on what he looked like yesterday from that small snapshot you got of him playing against the Ice Dogs.
Yeah, so I'm just going to also quickly touch. If you look at his elite prospects page, he's been at or above a point a game in pretty much every level that he's played. So it's obviously he is offensively capable. As for yesterday, Sudbury was missing Byfield. He's still out with an injury. Niagara, right away, Pekar scored a beautiful goal. He walked around a defender, did a little toe drag looking deke, then beat McLean with a great shot. 25 seconds later, Samuelson from Sudbury had a shot from the point. Pekar was in that area that you expect a rat-type player to be. He was in the front of the net, and he was able to get a deflection while getting barreled over by a defender. His hat-trick goal in the third period, crashing hard to the net, finding a loose puck in the slot, and just burying one past McLean. He looked really good. He was on their second power play unit. He missed a deflection in the second period. That would have been his hat-trick goal. He also then made a beautiful spinorama backhand pass to find Blake Murray wide open in the back door, and Murray just couldn't convert. So you saw a lot from Pekar. You saw that he had some offensive capabilities. He was getting under the Ice Dog's skin. He was jawing, running his mouth, and I mean that in a good way. He was making plays. So, again, he is 20 years old, and he's playing against a younger team in the OHL. But if you look at his numbers this year and his numbers from yesterday, he had a hat trick. He's got 2 hat tricks in his last 4 games. So you're seeing positive signs from him. You're seeing what you want to see from a player who is in his second year after being drafted. He's producing. He looks really good. He's 20 years old, so it's likely going to be jumping to Rochester next year. I know Randy Sexton said when he was talking to season ticket holders that when his season is over, he will be joining Rochester for late in the season. So, hopefully he'll be able. If not, hopefully, obviously, I would rather see Sudbury go deep and win Memorial Cup. But it wouldn't be the worst thing if their season does end early. At least he has Rochester to go skate with, and if that does happen, hopefully he can get in a few games and see how he would look with the Americans.
And especially if they're going to be having a playoff run themselves, I think that would be a valuable experience for him to just experience what it's like to be in a playoff atmosphere for an American Hockey League team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he got to skate with him last year. I know he was recovering from his injury, so he didn't really get to play in any games, but he was assigned to Rochester at the end of last year, and he did get to get in a few skates. So I think that was really valuable for him. And yeah, if they do get on a playoff run, Rochester they have a lot of AHL veteran forwards. There's not really a lot of players down in Rochester that you can look at and be like, oh, it'll be exciting to see them as a Sabre. It's kind of really just Asplund, Middlestat, maybe Ogilvy, and maybe CJ Smith. So getting another player like Pekar in there will give Sabres fans something to look forward to if that is what happens.
Yep, and he ended up with 3 goals and 1 assist. You had told me that he had scored 4 goals, and they announced him scoring 4 goals, but they ended up taking that away from him, and he only had an assist on the play, so he ended up with 3 goals and an assist on the day.
Yeah, the 4th goal, I kind of even said it when he scored it. I said it's being announced in the arena that Pekar got his 4th goal, but I don't think that's going to stick. Blake Murray kind of shot the puck from around the goal line area, and Pekar was in the slot, so I don't know why. Maybe they saw 92 and thought it was 12. I don't know. It's the only thing I could think of, really. But yeah, I didn't think that was going to stand as his 4th goal.
Yeah, maybe they just wanted to give it to him. He's had such a good day, and we were joking around. Maybe you motivated him a little bit to go out there and score a hat trick after the pregame interview there. So maybe you need to be his agent or something like that.
Yeah, I was laughing. I was like, this is like literally the perfect start. I just interviewed the guy, and he's out there scoring 2 goals. I'm like, that was awesome. It was my friends were texting me saying, "What the heck did you say to Pekar to get him going today?" And I was just laughing.
Yep.